Ευχαριστώ πολύ. This is a message cup. It's a voice recording and playback device that is used for the exchange of messages in the domestic environment. So when you want to leave a message to somebody that you share the same household, you pick up their cup, you talk to it, you put it upside down on the table, and when that person comes home, picks up the cup, and just by simply turning it to the upright position, plays the message. This was my first design project in 1993, well before text messaging started appearing on mobile phones. A few years down the line, I designed the antisocial light. It's a living room light that glows only when there is absolute silence. The idea behind it is that when you talk around it, the light starts to dim down, and then eventually you have to stop talking for it to glow again. And then there is the social light, which does exactly the opposite. You need to talk to it in order to maintain its glow. So it becomes very much like an object for therapy. You talk your frustrations to, and therefore you get a response. I was very much interested in electronic products, and I was very intrigued by the relationship, the psychological relationship that was developing between the object and the user. In the bedside table alarm clock that you see here is a metal table with two pairs of uneven legs. Below the lid there is a clock face, and you turn the dials at the time that you want to wake up. And when the time comes, the table starts vibrating, and then it rocks from side to side, causing all the objects that you have on it to fall on the ground and wake you up. At the time, I started collaborating with the design duo Dan and Raby, who are very known for defining the term critical design. In this project that we did called the Design for Fragile Personalities in Anxious Times, we wanted to develop a group of objects for therapy. Like this one is called Priscilla, and it's a cuddly toy in the shape of an atomic explosion. This was an experimental atomic explosion in the Nevada desert in 1957. And then you have the Seminole, which is a living room cushion upholstered in this mohair fabric, super soft, that is designed around this ocean explosion. The hideaway furniture pieces that you see here are pieces of furniture that you hide yourself inside for the fear of being abducted. So they disguise themselves, the material is the same material as the flooring. And so the way that you hide yourself inside is not in fear, but in leisure poses. Like, for example, this one, you lie with your hands behind your head and your legs up in the air. And the previous one, the first one, is inspired and it was designed around Goya's Maya. Further down the line, we extended this group of therapy objects. The perfect alignment, this is the title for this piece. It's an electronic box that you purchase, and then you plug it into the wall, into the socket. And then you type in your birthday and your place of birth. And what it does, it scans your astrological charts. And it looks for perfect moments in your life for you to act upon love. And the whole idea is that if that time comes, and when it comes, that box explodes in your living room. And this pink crystal inflates in your living room, and you know that this is your day. And you might be on holiday, in which case you miss it. In the Risk watch that you see here, it's a simple watch that basically whispers the level of risk at the time and the place that you happen to be. It's an electronic product, and it's perfectly functional. This one is the object for the sexually addicted. It helps you get over your addiction to porn. The idea is a DVD player, so you insert the porn DVD, and there's this long silicone rod that you hold on to, and it has these two sensors. Through galvanic skin response, it senses your excitement when you watch the movie. And what it does, it actually pixelates the screen, so you're not able to watch the porn movie anymore. So you have to count down in order to start playing again. So it's a sort of training that you have to put yourself through in order to relieve yourself from this illness, I guess. And this one is the last object of the series. It's called the statistical clock. It's a wall object. It's an electronic product again, and again it connects to the internet, and it scans live news data. And what it does, it basically counts the number of deaths, of dead people, at that particular moment of the accident. There are different channels that you can tune in, like there's one for plane crashes, one for car crashes, and one for friendly fires. So basically, the idea, if you're tuned into plane crashes, if there is a plane crash at that particular moment that you happen to be in your living room, what it does, it basically assesses the number of fatalities and starts counting the number of dead people. Basically, it rarely happens, and it will rarely happen that you happen to be in your living room at the time of a plane crash. So we wanted to show that possibility is quite rare. At that moment, I started to challenge my role as an industrial designer and basically designed for industry. All these products, all these electronic products, made it in great exhibitions around the world. A lot of them were acquired by private and public collections. So at the time, I bought this building in Waterloo in central London. It's a working class terraced property with a small shop below. And I decided to move into that building and move my studio, set up my studio, and started to explore my role as an industrial designer in a more serious manner. I gutted the whole interior of the building and started from scratch. I decided to create this new neutral space, living with very few objects. And at the same time, this interior became a perfect platform for me to develop my ideas. So it was also interesting for me to start living with my ideas and seeing my own judgment and becoming my own critic for my work. And you can see the location, I guess, of the house in this picture. And this is a small gallery space that we currently have in front of the studio. At that time, I started traveling to India. I spent a lot of time there because I started doing a lot of collaborative works with Bijoy Jain, the man behind Studio Mumbai, that I am sure you have heard of. And we collaborated in a lot of architectural projects. But at the same time, my own designs, or primarily my lights, found themselves in a lot of these interiors, so they were the perfect settings for me to exhibit my work. I was still unhappy about my role as a designer. Basically, it's important to mention at this point that for many years I tried to knock the doors of various manufacturers And especially at the time when I graduated, all I knew was the model of the industrial designer, where you had to design for industry and basically design for big brands and be able to live on royalties. So it was very interesting for me to break away from that model. But I felt that it was my duty to start producing my work in larger quantities in order to establish a platform of independence. So I set up my brand in 2007 under my own name, Michael Anastasiades. And I traveled around the world, not only in India, and located some family-run workshops in order to produce my own designs. I selected those workshops depending on their manufacturing skills, I guess their specialty in terms of craftsmanship. We started fabricating all the metal objects in India, the stonework, as you can see here, the onyx light is made in Italy, and a lot of the glass work was actually fabricated in the Czech Republic. We developed our own bespoke finishes for the objects. This is the tube chandelier. It became quite an iconic piece. And this is a series of mobile light fixtures. I guess they're more like light sculptures that it's basically a configuration of spheres, of glowing spheres, and reflectors and simple rods in perfect equilibrium. And there's different models that you see here. So, the idea is that you would change them and put them in different positions and change the light configuration. These are some meditation stools. I spent a lot of my time, especially after I graduated, practicing yoga. Eventually, I became a yoga instructor because I realized at that moment I had to earn a living, and that seemed to be a more obvious way of making it. These are some ball vases in the shape of bowling balls. It's a faceted table in a solid walnut. And this is a group of mirrors which are in copper, and they're more like sculptural forms reflecting light and space. And here you can see them again in my interior, these beautiful pictures by the photographer Hélène Binet. We did this photo shoot for our catalog last week. The mobiles again, this is standing one. I often get the opportunity to exhibit my work in quite amazing interiors, and I get invitations from institutions and museums. Like this installation that you see here is at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. It's in the Norfolk House music room. And what it is, it's part of the mobile chandelier series, and it's actually a kinetic light. It's a simple pendulum with a lit-up globe at the end that swings from side to side inside this quite large 4.5-meter cabinet. And the idea, what was intriguing for me, was to communicate the sense of music through silence and basically through movement. The idea of this inverted metronome keeping the rhythm and suggesting the absence of music. The same object was also hosted in the Geir Müller-Schloss. It's an amazing historical Biedermeier period building in Vienna that belongs to the MAC, the Museum of Applied Arts. It was the first exhibition that I was invited in, and it was part of a series that were to follow. And what was interesting about that house was that it housed an amazing collection of timepieces. So in this room here is a series of wall clocks, as you traditionally call them, grandfather's clocks. And I decided to move them away from the wall and place them inside in the center of the space. Lined the back of them with mirrors and worked with a sound artist called Scanner and developed this soundscape that was a combination of whispers, clocks ticking, and heartbeats. So what I wanted to communicate was the idea that the inhabitants of the house just simply left the building and left the space as it is. And these mirrors here that basically mold themselves on the furniture and on the walls and the floors of the space. This is another installation that I did in London during the Design Festival 2 years ago, at number 235 Old Brompton Road. It was in an old Victorian jewelry store. It was a beautiful space, and it had been lying empty for many years and basically was offered to different designers and artists to do something with the space. So I found this quite intriguing because I wanted to maintain the fabric of the building, and what I decided to do is to line all the interiors of the cabinets with mirrors. So I wanted to play with a sense of reflection. And you can see some of the objects in close-up, like the mirror glasses, or these pieces here. This is a commission that I had from the trustees of the Hagia Sophia, which is the cathedral, the Orthodox cathedral in central London. What was interesting about this commission, that the church was actually designed in 1850 by a British architect, and they ran out of money, and throughout the years, every time they managed to collect some money from the donors, they decided to do different additions to the church, like the mosaics. And what was interesting was that every addition that happened 30 years on or 40 years on was very much of the current climate. So they came to me because they specifically wanted something that respected the space but was also quite contemporary. This is another installation that I did at this store called Svenskt Tenn in Stockholm. It was an homage to Joseph Frank, who was the main designer behind this brand, the Svenskt Tenn. It's only one store around the world. What he was very famous for was the textiles that he designs, and I'm sure you've seen them around. And the people that commissioned me to do this exhibition insisted that I should use some of his textiles, but instead what I decided to do is to take the plants from the textile and hang them in exactly the same configuration in these vases that I specially designed for the show and grew these plants in hydroponics. You can see them growing there. And then also designed this whole collection for them, like these small tables that you see here are in the shape of islands of the archipelago. So all these pieces were actually inspired from Joseph Frank pieces, and the title of the show was called To Be Perfectly Frank. You can see the cabinets, the birdcage cabinet there, all this light in the shape of a Chinese lantern. This was another installation that I did it was a commission for the European Union building in Brussels, and it was to mark the Cyprus presidency in 2012. We suspended this textile structure in the atrium space. It was a very lightweight structure. It was actually 15 meters high. I think you can sense the scale from the figure on the left. And this is some furniture that I developed specifically for that commission with Cypriot artisans. An installation I did at Palazzo Durini it was a collaboration for Nilufar Gallery. These are the lit lines. And then Tree in the Moonlight, which was an unlimited piece that was developed also later for the same gallery. That moment started basically the collaboration of a lot of big names and big brands, and it came right at the moment when I decided that I'm very happy with everything that I was doing. I had established my own independence. I have established my own model that was very successful as a designer in terms of in commercial terms. But this is a time when even those fabricators, a lot of them, all these big brands and all these big names that I used to knock at their doors 10 years ago, now suddenly came to me and said, we would like you to design something for us. This is a collection for a glass manufacturer called Lobmeyer that is based in Vienna. It's called Captured. It's basically a cut glass sphere, a cut crystal sphere that casts these shadows on the wall, and this with two spheres that you can rotate it in different configurations. And this was a very recent collaboration with a big Italian manufacturer, lighting manufacturer. These are the IC lights that you see here. And this is a presentation that we did this last year during Design Festival in London. And then the string lights, which is a very interesting project, quite architectural. It's a very simple idea. It's either a sphere or a cone, as you can see here, that comes with a very long string, and you can position this string in any orientation, in any configuration, and basically divide the space architecturally. I was very much inspired by the way that electricity cables in the landscape connect the different pylons, and I was absolutely amazed, especially when I was on a train traveling from London to Paris usually, looking outside the train and looking at these electricity wires that connected the pylons that were perfectly parallel. And there was this incredible sense of discipline that existed in that, and I wanted to capture that in the interior environment. And also at the same time, it was all about solving a very practical problem, is that when you move into a house, the power points are always where you least want them to be. So you want to move a light from A to B. And this is an interesting configuration that plugs into the wall, and basically the other right-hand corner on the top is a dummy cable that simply hooks and holds the light in position. And this is my presentation at Euroluce in 2013, the big lighting fair in Milan as a brand. It was a very small stand, and that's basically, as we are a very young company. But it was beautifully finished with this dark veneer, and also you use these copper nails that you see here. And the contrast with the brass pieces that we chose to show all in brass, and also the light fixtures. This was another collaboration called Miracle Chips. It was a collaboration that I did with a company called Enro. They're based in northern Italy. And it was an initiative of Wallpaper magazine. they're very much sculptural forms that push the boundaries, the technological boundaries of what is actually achievable with marble. It's a series of discs. They are about 800 millimeters diameter, about 80 centimeters, and they simply curl up, as you can see. What was interesting in one interview that actually I did for a magazine, that there were a lot of people that came to me and said to me, how did you manage to bend marble in that way? I extended that collaboration later on with the same company. This is a wall covering, again in Carrara marble. So they're wall tiles and something more graphical, or these three-dimensional sort of suggestion of a column or abstraction of a column. I'd like to end with a recent exhibition that I had in Cyprus. It was a very important moment for me going back to Cyprus. It was almost like a homecoming exhibition. It was interesting because the proposal came from a new gallery called Point Center for Contemporary Arts that came to me and said, we would like to do a show with you. And everybody thought at the time, okay, you know, they were expecting me to go and show off all these amazing pieces, all these light fixtures. And at the beginning, this was my idea of communicating my work. But then I thought, I felt very guilty. I felt very guilty just purely because of all this climate that exists in Cyprus, and especially what has happened is very, very recent. So what I decided to do was to do something very specific, inspired from my own experience and the current climate in Cyprus. This piece is actually started from the art of suiseki, which is basically the Japanese art of stone or rock collecting. So if you collect stones in the landscape, and then you position them in a very specific way, then they start looking like landscapes. So this one was actually carved in the shape of pentadactylos, which is a very iconic rock that is occupied at the moment by the Turks, and has changed different hands in that sense, exploring the sense of ownership. So what I wanted to communicate with this piece was that it just happened to be a rock that you found in nature that looked like pentadactylos. And then this one is another obsession that I have with collecting, trying to find the perfect shapes in nature. Like this small round stone that you see there is something that I found as a teenager, and then what I did is I actually scanned it and scaled it up and carved it in stone. So you can see every imperfection in that scale. And the piece at the back that you see there is an abstraction of a financial chart. So it's just simply a plank on the wall with a ball that is glowing, and you don't really know whether the ball in the economy is collapsing or it's actually rising. It's called shooting star. What it means is when a stock opens in the market, and then throughout the day it actually shoots rocket high, and then when it closes at the end of the day, it closes below the opening price, the opening value. All these pieces, which again is a local Cypriot landscape, is three hills. What is important is a political piece. One of the hills has actually a church, an Orthodox church, that is occupied at the moment by the Turks. The other one has a UN guard, and the last one is actually Cypriot. And they're within 50 meters of each other. This piece is called Foul. Actually, I positioned this glowing sphere in the middle of these three mountains, and I wanted to also communicate the obsession that Cypriots and I guess Greeks have with football. And this is another piece similar, and then this is actually an interesting piece. It's called Fairest, and is a mirror that you, it's simply a gold-plated sphere on the wall, and you can't escape from it. So the idea that you have a responsibility over the situation, and also you can see the objects reflected in the space. This one, again, is called the Cyprus Economic Sentiment Indicator. Again, is a financial chart. And you can see here is a series of these mountains or hills carved in the local sandstone. And there is a slice right in the middle, and basically it shows the downfall of the Cyprus Economic Sentiment Indicator. And these pieces finally communicate the obsession about the shortage of water. This is a series of living room tables. They're in the shape of one of the biggest water dams in Cyprus called Kouris Dam. And it's 3 different tables. And it shows the level of water in 3 different scenarios. The first one that you see here, the closest one, is actually full. The middle one is half full, and the last one is almost empty. And the titles for this piece, especially the front piece, is called the 15th of March, 2013, and it was the day that the banks closed. So I wanted to make this parallel between 2 anxieties, so going back again to that sense of therapy objects. Thank you very much.